Tom, we are living in obviously the most connected time in history today, but despite that, men are feeling lonelier than ever. I saw a stat that 1 in 4 men say they feel lonely every single day, and somewhere between 15 to 20% of men report to not having a single close friend. So we know loneliness is fueling depression, addiction, and suicide. From your perspective, what in the hell is going on with men today? Why, with all this technology, why, with all this access, are men feeling more isolated than ever before?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Frank, and happy to be here. There's a bunch of different directions we can take this, so let's lean in and see where we get to. I think first and foremost, men are in a very tricky position. I'm speaking a lot from the American perspective, although I think it goes global, is a lot of guys I connected with, myself included, are feeling this sense of simultaneously being told to shut up and step up at the same time. I think there's an element of, you guys had your chance. You've been kind of running the world. Men are the source of a lot of problems. So shut up and get out of the conversation. And at the same time, in our intimate relationships and our communities, it's like, step up. Like, there's too much toxic masculinity. You need to be better, like be this strong man, but also be in touch with your emotions and X, Y, and Z. And it's a hard position because there's very few models out there for a lot of guys of what a healthy modern man actually looks like. Like, how do you be in touch with your anger in any sort of positive way? How do you maintain a good sex life when you're also being asked to provide for your family? I mean, there's just so much, there's a lot of weight, I think, being put on guys. This is not a zero-sum game. That does not mean guys have it all bad and no one else does. It's just that we need to pay attention to the men in our world because guys are responsible for the vast majority of homicides, imprisonment, like you name it. And I think what's happening is guys just don't have the tools and skills or even understanding that opening up in community and sharing about what's going on is the exact direction they need to walk in. Because when guys are feeling stuck and isolated, the last thing they often want to do, myself included, is to open up about it. And one of my favorite quotes is from Joseph Campbell, which is, "The cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek." And I think for a lot of men, that healthy male role model and a respected man they want to be is going through the cave. And the cave is oftentimes like, what's going on? Like, you got to talk to some people about it. It doesn't have to be a therapist, but you need a community and you need people that you can trust, that you can share with, because we're not meant to do this by ourselves. We never were.
Yeah, I'm glad you made a really important point there. Sometimes, this conversation will perhaps enter into a territory where it originally wasn't meant. Like, the intent behind today's conversation is to speak to the man out there that is looking to elevate and level up in his life. We say the mission of the Superman Life is to help guys level up in the 5 key areas of their life. I talk about faith, fitness, finance, family, and freedom. If somebody doesn't believe in that worldview and they're hearing this, obviously they're going to have an idea that we're speaking against something that is their specific worldview. And I think sometimes what you said there, it's like people say men don't need to be told to seek the helps. It's not just about helping men. This podcast is about helping men. So here from the beginning, if you don't believe and buy into that, I'm very happy for people to click away. But we do want to help and serve the men out there that are looking for it. I'm curious because you said that they're getting kind of these two conflicting talking points: shut up, speak up. Where is that narrative coming from? Is it coming from the same voice, or are they listening to two different voices that are telling them a conflicting point of view?
Yeah, that's a great question, Frank. I guess to put it simply, there's the external and internal. So inside, it's some version for most of us of self-talk. And for anyone who's ever paid attention to the voice inside their head, they probably wouldn't speak to their worst enemy even close to how they would speak to themselves. There's a mechanism in our minds. There's many different ways we could call it, that I judge is often linked to survival, right? To put us into a state of trying to find safety at all costs. What it does in this modern world a lot of times is just puts us into a state of fear. It tells us that things aren't safe. The other piece is the external, like the news cycle, social media is painting a very hard picture of reality right now. No matter who you are, what you look like, what your gender is, what you believe in, if you read enough social media, frankly, if you're on it for 5 minutes, it's probably going to tell you, like, what's the point of trying? Like the world is looking bleak depending on the story you're telling yourself. And I think that's the link is what is the story we're telling ourselves about us, about our community, about our life. And to your point, Frank, like how much how much hope and faith do we have that we can be better? First of all, individually, because a lot of guys I talk to and work with are very accustomed to the things they don't want being their reality. Like a typical man that we work with at Groups for Men is, I'd say, way has a way easier time telling you this is all the things that I don't want. And if I ask them what is it that you really do want in life, they draw a blank, because a lot of us haven't been given the space or faith to know that it's okay to want more for ourselves than what we had before.
It's such an important part, man. I had a very in-depth talk with our community a couple of weeks ago. I turned it into a solo cast for our other show, The Rebuilt Man. Napoleon Hill pointed out, I think Think and Grow Rich is such a foundational book. A lot of people thinking about money, success, business, entrepreneurship. Like if you look at it through a lens of growth and development and success in building relationships and overcoming pornography addiction, all those lessons apply. And it's like the thing that Napoleon Hill points to is desire is the beginning of all success. If we want to change our life, we have to desire change more than we accept the status quo. If we want to create meaningful relationships, we have to desire connection with others more than we accept isolation. I think that has been something that's truly been awoken in me since I started working with men, is most men don't have that. They've either accepted the status quo, they've either been told in the past that they aren't worthy, right? Maybe some of that internal dialogue and narrative is coming from programming and beliefs. So if a guy is trying to maybe rewrite this desire, recraft what he ultimately wants, where would you say is the first entry point into that?
I'm all about tangible tools. What's step one? Because all of this sounds beautiful, and if you're a man out there, or a woman who loves a man who wants to share this with him to help put his life in the right direction, where do you start? I'll give you a practice I use, which is I write a letter to myself. I do this on 90-day cycles. It's linked to manifestation, which is a beautiful concept in word, and it's also like a lot all around social media, and I think hard to actually understand. Essentially, what I do is on a 90-day cycle, so every 3 months, I close my eyes and I pretend I'm myself 3 months from now. And I have a magic wand and I imagine, like, what is the absolute beautiful, best desired state of my life 3 months from now? And I write a letter to myself today from future Tom. This is not your ticket to saying, like, that means you get to sit back and have all that. And it's not even about sort of being attached to that happening, but it's about letting yourself dream. So today is, we're in mid-September. We're looking at October, November, December. So around the holidays before Christmas time, I imagine, what would my ideal life feel like when I wake up? How do I feel about what I'm doing? How much money is in the bank? How often are my partner and I having sex? What's my physicality feel like? Uh, how do I spend my free time? If I go get like, how often do I go get a massage or take care of myself? Whatever it may be for you. How much do you visit family? And I write that down. I write the letter, I edit it, and I read myself that letter every single day as a reminder of what is laying ahead of me if I trust and stay on this path. And then the sort of logical male mind gets to go of like, okay, let's reverse engineer this. What are the daily things I need to do to actually get myself to this desired life?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have, you mentioned manifestation being this fancy buzzword that's been kind of thrown around the internet. Obviously, the movie The Secret, I think, caught a lot of waves. And I think it gave people this false idea of what it actually is, that, if you think about something, it's going to magically appear like in your world. I just read a powerful book by Dr. James Doty called Magic Mind, which he looks at the art or the science of manifestation through neuroscience. So there's actually centers within our brain. A lot of people know about the reticular activating system. It's something I've talked a lot about here, that when you begin to think about the things that you want, it kind of triggers your perception to go out there and look for it. We only see a small fragment of reality, and we see what we believe is going to be most important. I knew out of the gate, man, that this is going to be an incredible conversation because I think we're very, very aligned. It's interesting. We had that exact same assignment, writing a letter from yourself to your current self in week 1, literally, of our porn recovery program. I want the men to think about 12 weeks into the future, walking in freedom. What does that look, feel, smell like? What does their day-to-day look like? What do their relationships look like? What does their fitness health look like? What are their passions, their purpose? And bring the emotion into it. And I think that was something that you were very clear in your articulation, is like, it's not about just a list of goals. Like, I want to accomplish this, I want to do that. It's like, you have to tie it into the emotion. So I'm fully aligned with all of that.
Yes, because the goals themselves, yes, you hit 10K a month, or this video goes viral, or your dad and you go to that trip to Italy, or whatever it is, or you have mind-blowing sex and everything's great. We find, like, the goals themselves, the happiness that we think will be achieved after that is fleeting, is a harsh word, but it's temporary. It's really the state of being that we're desiring around the goals. Like, how will that amount of money make me feel as a person? How will that security in my relationship make me feel on a day-to-day basis that we're after? And I agree with you. That's the thing we're after, is the recurring feelings and emotions that we're desiring from our life. And you brought up a really good point, Frank, that we use a lot, which is the pivot of our language. That, again, I bring up that a lot of guys, myself included, like, on a day-to-day basis, I can be really a lot more attuned to what I don't want than I do want, because it's sometimes in my face. It's like, I don't want corruption. I don't want people to discriminate me or each other. I don't want to be strapped for cash. I don't want to be unhealthy. I don't want my back to hurt, whatever it may be. It's the flip that is important. Like feel that don't want, like anger, the dissatisfaction is important, because that's a fuel for change. And then get clear, even another one is just get a Post-it note and write a T-chart. Like, here are all the things I don't want, and then flip them. What is the reciprocal thing that you do want on the other side? So if you don't want to feel scarce around money, what is that amount of money or abundance that would make you feel safe, that would make you feel enough? What is that state of being in your relationship that would make you feel really proud and respected, whatever that would be?
Yeah, and I would add into there, where is money obviously readily abundant in your life already? Where are relationships already abundant in your life? So now it's also the desire, you're running from the thing that you don't want. So this kind of fear-based motivation, right? Like, I don't want this, I want this, but I have this. When I remind myself that I have a lot of these things, even though it may be hard to recognize, right? That becomes kind of more of an abundance language of thinking, more of an abundance mentality. Oh yeah, I'm sitting in an air-conditioned house, right? I'm looking at a $1,500 cell phone. I'm driving a $50,000 automobile. I have a $200 pair of shoes. I actually have a pretty abundant life. Despite not having everything that I want, I'm still really grateful for everything that I currently have. Now let me go get more of it. I want to circle back to something you said about the perception of a reality that we are seeing when we live in this current news cycle, when we live on social media. I struggle with this, right? Because we spread our message through social media. We've built our businesses off of these platforms as well. So I see them as incredible tools, but I also understand the destructive nature of them. And how much of the current state, because I teed it up, right, incredibly connected with access technology that we have here today, how much of some of these issues that men are dealing with is us buying into the lie that what we're seeing on social media is even the reality? Because I'm sure you and I both know, right? Obviously, certain things trigger algorithms, certain things, news, propaganda, media have been used negatively to drive up emotion. I don't believe we were ever meant to really know exactly what's going on at every part of the world, at every waking moment. So while it can be good from a evolutionary perspective, like, our tiny little human brains aren't actually created for that level of capacity. So speak to that a little bit, man, how, like, we shouldn't be looking at the media as actually the current state of our, because if you step into a coffee shop in your town, if you step into a public sphere somewhere, people aren't yelling at you. Like, I've never had I don't have a negative experience in person, but I go online and I got people calling me every name under the sun. But I've obviously trained myself to know that that's not real. Let me go out and get more of this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you named a bunch of good things, Frank. I love that you also named this 150 to 300,000-year-old piece of technology living between our ears that is not meant to multitask and take in information at this level. I use this analogy a bit with addiction or just with any sort of strong external outlet, which is, are you in the driver's seat or the passenger seat? So whether it's porn or whether it's social media or even like work, it can be hard to stay in the driver's seat, and like it can be hard to be the main character in our life, and it's very easy to step into the passenger seat when I get on something like TikTok or Instagram. And you're right, like the best minds in the world at that thing have designed it to feed me everything possible to make me want to just stay on it longer and feed whatever that deeper need is for variety, for certainty, for significance, for connection, for love, whatever it may be. I think I would come back to your story of the coffee shop as front and center, because we can go spend hours, literally endless hours, pouring our emotions into a void of social media, which there is a lot of merit and good. I agree with you. I think there's a lot of really good people out there sharing good messages that are reminding folks and pointing folks in the right direction. And I do think in some ways it's becoming a crutch for genuine in-person human connection, because that's scary as shit. And don't get even started on dating. And we could talk about, like going to porn versus going out to a singles event and talking to someone completely sober and possibly just getting shut down or rejected. Like how much more we stand to lose emotionally doing that in our minds, because that takes courage. Like it takes courage to go out and talk to a stranger or someone we know behind the counter and be genuinely interested in what they have to say before just trying to be interesting in their direction, before trying to just like spew out our story and perspective as fast as we can, but to go out in the world and just genuinely take a second to hear someone out and help them feel seen, heard, and understood. And you're right, Frank. In my experience, I live on the road with my Airstream with my partner. We've been all around the United States. I lived in Uganda for 5 years. I've been in over 40 countries. And some days I'm not on point by all means. And I have more often than not made it a priority to take an interest in the people I meet. And when I do, 10 times out of 10, I feel better. I feel like I've contributed something. And it reminds me that more often than not, like vast majority of the time, most people are just living their lives. Like they just want to feel some level of safety. They want to feel a bit of variety and spice. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel love and connection. They want to grow. They want to contribute to the people around them in a meaningful way. It's simple. It's not easy. And I think social media is actually a safer place to do it, because there's less risk of us being exposed and being seen fully. And a lot of that like sideways vitriol, it comes out there because we wouldn't dare do that in person in front of someone when we can feel the impact it has on them face to face.
Yeah, I love that. I mentioned at the beginning, our mission here is to help the guy that's out there seeking change to level up, provide tools. We'll get very practical in these conversations. We'll speak from a 30,000-foot view. We'll also get in the trenches. We have groups and courses and programs that we work day in and day out with men. Over 1,700 successful transformations in the porn addiction space over the last 6 years. But with all that, still coming from a place of service, like we're also going to challenge men sometimes with our message here as well. And I hear you speak about the guy that's maybe struggling to maybe step out in a social place due to fear of rejection or lacking the courage. Sometimes I think that's because the men are listening to that voice inside of them, right? That's telling them they're not worthy. But there's also some truth maybe, and they know that they're not living up to their full potential, right? Like if you stepped into a social place and you're like, you know what, man, like I'm the top tier dude in this gym, man, like, or top tier dude in whatever place it is you're going, like my fitness in check, I may not be exactly where I want, but I know I'm doing the things daily that are moving me closer towards living up to my potential. What do I have to be afraid of? Like if I'm actually putting in the work every single day, I should be proud to share myself with somebody. I should see myself as the actual catch in a relationship. It's a funny story, man. Like I've been with my girl for about 2 years now, and I remember we'd been training at the same gym for a while, but when we officially became like a couple, like people noticed it, and I had a couple people come up to me like, "Congratulations, beautiful woman, right? Like takes care of her health, fitness, mentally sharp, like all about the development. We're fully aligned to what we want out of life." And I said it as a joke, but there was some truth in actually what I felt. I was like, she should be the one that should be like told congratulations, right? Like I'm the catch. And it got some chuckles, it got some laughs, but it's like, because I knew that I am a man of value. Like I see myself through that lens. Maybe it's just me programming myself right. I don't know. I could be an absolute piece of shit. I don't really care, but I believe that I'm actually valuable. So I wasn't afraid to go out into any place and present what I'm doing with myself. How much of that fear or lack of courage or fear of rejection is rooted in men knowing they're not doing the work that's important on themselves?
Probably a lot, significant amount. Yeah, I think that's pretty on point. There's I'm grateful to the fact that in this day and age, the value to personally develop and better ourselves seems to be a really high value thing. Like opening up and being emotionally vulnerable, I think more and more is becoming an agreed upon good thing for at least a lot of the spaces maybe we operate in, Frank. And there's an underbelly to that, which means in order to fully do that, which means putting a mirror up in front of ourselves, we're also going to see the aspects of our experience that we really don't like and be asked to take full responsibility and ownership of those things. And that's hard. And that's really hard because in my experience, there's no path to true growth without grief and without messiness and without anger and fear and pain. I mean, take the simplest analogy I can give you, which is a seed planting into a tree, and then in the winter it dies again. Like there's a seasonality to this, and there's going to be times where you're not all on point, and that face that you're used to wearing, that I'm used to wearing, of like, yeah, Tom's doing his work and he's in it, but he's always got it together. Like there's gonna be times where you don't, and that can be really scary because there's always a chance that someone on the other side is like, that's weird. You should feel guilty or shameful about that. Even if they don't know they're doing that, our intention and our impact can be very different. So there's always a possibility, and no doubt we're gonna have a moment where we try to open up and let someone know, like, hey, I don't have it all figured out, and someone's going to spew that back in our face, and that is heartbreaking. And yet, I think one of the most, for me, advantageous qualities of a healthy man, like let's start to form what that is, like what is the opposite of a toxic man, is a sense of humility and someone that can be trusted. And in order for me to be trusted, I both need to feel capable to the eyes of others as a leader, and I need to know when I don't have all the answers and be willing to share that, and be willing to name, like, okay, I'm going to go to Frank or Troy or Mackenzie or whoever to find the answer where I need support, but someone that knows their own limitations and knows where to go to get that support, as well as is solid in who they are. And that we don't play well in the gray area. Like we want to have it all figured out, or we don't want to try it all. It's scary to try something new, like a sport or activity. It's to go to the gym. If you've ever gone to the gym or haven't in years and see people that look like you at the gym repping whatever, and you're like, holy shit, like I'm gonna get made fun of, like I'm gonna get ridiculed. It's scary to step into a new space and show ourselves, especially if this doesn't all look as pretty as we'd like to admit. And that's the case for all of us, I believe.
Yeah, I think that takes, for me personally, a lot of the humility became a byproduct of, I think, finding Christ in my life. Like I was in my late 20s, early 30s, very driven by ego, pride, trying to outshine, outlast. And it's like the humbleness came when I began to accept that, like, human beings are broken, not me in particular, right? Like I struggled with addiction and a lot of different things. Like, so it wasn't the fault of me. It was the fault of man. Like all men are created. So I know that I have flaws, but I'm going to because you use that Joseph Campbell quote at the beginning, right? It's like we have to look into, I forget the quote specifically, but it was like looking at the darkest part of our life, and like that's where the growth is going to be the greatest opportunity for us. And it's like recognizing, one, we have gifts, right? There's uniqueness in every single one of us, paired with some flaws. We can lean into the gifts and then surround ourselves with people that won't hold our flaws against us. And I'm assuming that's the importance of the community groups like men and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. There's 8 billion people in the world, right? There's going to be people that don't agree 100% with everything you say, but there's enough people out there that you can find a group of like-minded individuals. So let's pivot and kind of talk more about groups for men, what you guys are doing, the various kind of avenues and routes that you help guys with, maybe kind of opening it up with Tom, specifically you, like what was your journey into finding, starting, creating groups for men?
Yes. Thanks for that, Frank. I'll give the short median version, and I can fill in any gaps as needed. A catalyst moment for me was in the last decade or so. I've lost three very dear friends, male friends, to suicide. The first one that passed, that took his own life, was in 2014. I was a junior in college, and this was a guy named Daniel who was very much mentee, under my wing, very dear friend of mine. And there were some signs, and it hit me like a wall. At that point, I think at the time, the best tool I had to process my grief was to declare that I'm going to live twice as hard for Daniel and I, and just go out for what I want and dream and travel. Um, Losing Harrison Bridger as well were just sort of catalyzing reminders that as a man growing up the way I have, like there's a lot of men out there that I can connect with. And one of my gifts is just being able to communicate complicated things in very tangible ways and help people feel seen, heard, and understood in conversation. So it became clear that that would be a big avenue for me professionally. Uh, Travel was huge. I moved to Uganda when I was 22, and I lived there for 5 years full time. I was designing and running cross-cultural exchange programs where I'd have Americans come out for 1 to 3 weeks to learn about foreign aid and what I call like the positive and negative sides of international development and impacts of colonialism, and learning about a different part of the world with the intention of, let me seek to understand before I try to seek to teach and change. Um, the underlying thing of all that was always group facilitation and learning and helping people across cultures have better conversations and talk about the things that really matter. And admittedly, it's always come from a self-serving perspective, selfish perspective also, which is like, I want to have those conversations. Like, I want to have these conversations as much as possible because they make me feel affirmed in who I am. They make me feel on purpose and everything. And the last tie-in is when I moved back to America 3 years ago. I started hearing about men's work, and I was doing a lot of my own, at the time, meditation, yoga, personal work, and didn't really have a lot of access to men's groups out in East Africa. And when I moved to America, I just dove right in and found men's retreats, found virtual men's groups that I was participating and facilitating in, found in-person men's groups, creating my own, because I had a lot of friends. I keep a big community. A lot of my male friends, though, I think at the time, the majority of them I knew, but I also had never been at that deeper level and really knew what their rough edges were and what they did on their lower days and how they handled some of the bigger questions and what did their breakups and losses mean to them and how do they deal with them, because life was starting to throw me some real heavy stuff. And it became my way to understand and learn together. And that moved me more into the work I'm doing today.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that backstory, and I think what you kind of ended there with is, so many men, they keep their conversations and discussions surface level, right? It's sports, news, money, maybe politics, but it's kind of like they're not going to talk like too deep into it. It's like that's kind of like one of those gray areas, because going deeper, exploring your thoughts, feelings, wounds, traumas, like it can feel very risky. But oftentimes staying surface level is actually what's keeping men stuck, right? So how does a man that is recognizing, hey, I'm I'm kind of like living this surface level, right? There's been all these kind of viral videos. I'm sure you've seen a few of them. It's like, you know, when you ask a guy how he's going and he's like, I'm fine or I'm okay, like that should be a big warning sign that there's something deeper, right? Like if his immediate response is I'm fine, I'm okay, everything, right? Or what's the one that kind of nothing to complain about? That's the one that drives me crazy. Is seriously, your first response is like you're supposed to have something in your life you're supposed to complain about, like just a very interesting worldview there. But what are some tools or frameworks that guys can, you know, maybe lean into, utilize? What do you kind of teach? What are, you know, some questions, talking points, tools that guys can begin to explore in themselves and also within their social circles? Like if a guy's hearing this and he's like, yeah, that's my social circle, but I want to maybe be the trigger point, the genesis that's going to maybe change my own social circle. Is there anything I can do if he's recognizing all his relationships are rooted on the surface?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, you make me think of the description of fine being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. What fine actually means behind the surface. Yeah, number of things. I guess I'll offer a few little tangible tools for you on an individual level, whoever's listening to this, as well as the external, like starting to get into groups, talking to other men about these sorts of things, and getting into community. Because honestly, that is a scary jump to make. And I hear you men out there who are feeling like this all sounds good, but this wouldn't work in my life, or I'm never going to hop on Zoom and talk to a bunch of strange men I've never met before. Like I get that feels like a scary jump. I'd say individually, the things I lean on are what am I listening to, what am I saying, and what am I doing with my body. So simple one is meditation or some kind of, to make it simple, can I sit still for 10 minutes and be with my own thoughts? That's a starting place. And for a lot of us, that's either not attainable or not accessible and very scary. So there's one. Two, to complement that is to actually write out what we are thinking so we can get a sense of what is talking up here. I'll use a practice called free writing, kind of similar to the artist's way, where set a 10-minute timer, have your phone or computer or journal in front of you, and the rule is from start to finish, you don't stop writing. And at the end of it, you crumble up the page, you delete it, you burn it, you don't have to keep it, but just get some things out there and just start understanding what is the narrative that's going on in here and how much of it can actually be trusted and how much needs to be trusted. The third one, and I love that you named it, Frank, is to inhabit our bodies. There's a word embodiment that's used a lot, but to do things that are tending to this meat suit flesh bag we're in, which could be as simple as going for a walk if for 20 minutes if you haven't in a while, getting back into the gym, going for a run, stretching a goddamn hamstring once in a while. Like do things that get you into your physical senses, because the best way to get grounded and out of our heads I use is to get in my toes. So I'll sit down and just press my big toes into the ground for a few minutes so that I get as far away from my mind as possible, because typically our mind can be our greatest friend and our greatest enemy. So those are three individual tools I would name, which is being alone with your own thoughts and listening, talking them out, and then getting in our bodies. Maybe I'll pause here and then I'll tee up the next level, which is to drop in with a group of men where you can start practicing these things together. Because again, doing this in community is way more valuable and impactful than doing it alone. And for us at Groups for Men, groupsformen.com, we're really just trying to create a space where guys can drop in at entry-level men's work and start to get deep and jump right into a professionally facilitated group where you can feel safe to share whatever the hell you want, and whatever's going on has been heard before by some other man. And we've got some tangible tools in a tool shed that can help you change it if you'd like, and if you're willing to show up week in and week out.
Yeah, there was a French philosopher in the late 1700s, Pascal, that said all of humanity's problems stem from a man's inability to sit in his quiet thoughts alone. And, you know, we've talked about the access to the internet. You know, we have these little devices. I'm very intentional. I keep my phone downstairs when I'm working. I've created a lot of boundaries in my life to try to stay away from these things. I'm probably a little bit older than you. I was born in 83, so I grew up 80s, 90s. So I lived even a portion of my adult life like pre the iPhone. Like I can remember a time as an adult, like having to sit in like a doctor's or dentist's office, and like everybody wasn't on their phone. Like there were like 4 magazines. There was a home and garden, there was a car magazine, there was a magazine for women, and maybe there was a sports magazine if you're lucky. And there was one TV that showed Maury Povich or like Oprah. And if you weren't into any of that, you had to sit there. Like you had to sit there and just be in your thoughts. You know, if you rode in a taxi, we didn't have Uber back then. You had to sit in the back of the car and just be in your thoughts, because chances are the guy driving you didn't speak the same language as you. So it's like you didn't have something that you could plug into at all times. And I love that you said, like, be intentional about getting in your own thoughts. You know, I read a book, The Comfort Crisis, because you said a second one was like getting outside, getting in nature. Michael Easter in Comfort Crisis talks about a research that was done in Manhattan, in the city, with 2 groups of people. They both went outside every single day. One group went for a walk in nature without their phone. The other group just went outside. And the group that went outside in nature without their phone showed lower levels of mental health, lower levels of depression, stress, isolation. Like literally just spending time away from your phone can help. I don't want to say it's going to cure some of your challenges, but it's going to create free space where you can then begin to understand like what is going on upstairs. Because if every time you have a negative thought, if every time you have something that is stressing you, you look to divert that and consume, then obviously all that stuff is going to continue to pile up. And in our world, that leads to addiction, but it can go deeper. It can lead to addiction in porn, addiction in drug, addiction in alcohol, infidelity, or unfortunate with 3 of your close friends, it led them to this idea that ending it was better than staying.
Yes. Yeah. The wrong case of the fuck it's, as we like to call it, versus the fuck it, I'll go do it and I'll make the change, versus fuck it, what's the point? And I think you're absolutely right, Frank. I've been talking about this a lot with our guys in Groups for Men, is the level of noise that is happening around us is a lot higher and louder than it used to be. The amplifier of life through social media, through the news, through our work, through the amount of time we need to spend on computers and screens these days, our nervous systems are jacked up, and they're a lot less equipped to handle adverse things. Like we are from a body perspective, we are being put in a state where we think there's a tiger or a predator about to kill us. And yet it may just be that we didn't respond to that email an extra 24 hours later, and we think we're going to get chewed out for it. So I totally agree with you. One of the wisest things I've heard from an elder in my life recently is that nature, the natural world, is one of the only things that holds a completely neutral energy always. So obviously there's natural disasters, there's crazy weather and things, and yet you go out and stand in a forest of trees and there's a stillness there, right? It's not necessarily joyful, it's not angry, it's just neutral. And what can be confronting about something like, I'm just going to sit still for 10 minutes, the reason that's so hard for a lot of people is because it shows us how turned up we really are, and how on edge we really are, and how operating from fear and reactivity we are. It's not a judgment. It's a pretty natural reaction to a supercomputer in our pocket notifying us 100 times a day that something bad is going on in the world. It's going to put us in fear. It's because we're wired to care, and we're wired to want things to be good. And that's where I try to remind us that sometimes it's a subtraction of the stimulus. It's limiting the inputs, it's turning down the volume, rather than trying to cram and add every other book, podcast, and piece of advice into extra minutes of the day. Is like being more intentional of listening to a few voices in your life, having a couple trusted mentors, having your one group of people that you can really drop in with on a consistent basis, and not trying to cram all the information in our heads, because it puts us in this very unadvantageous position to respond to life's inevitable challenges and just normal day-to-day things.
Yeah, I would probably asterisk that and say not sometimes is it about the subtraction, but probably almost all times is it going to be about the subtraction. And that's been kind of the case with us. We work a lot with, high performing men, and, it's like they have all these concepts and ideas, and they're reading all the books, they're listening to the podcast, they're joining this, they're doing this, they're doing that. So like they come in and it's like, stop doing all that. Just sometimes just sit. right? And it's like, once they grasp and understand that concept, like, and they can actually apply it, and they're like, oh yeah, I can just kind of sit here, and it's like it's going to like actually add more time because I give my nervous system time to reset. Like, so I love that we shared that. Let's get into, because we gave a lot of kind of tangible, like one-off tools, like the guy that he can kind of implement into his own life. But obviously there's this need now to getting connected with others. So what does groups for men, look like? What's the structure here? What and what importance? Because once again, it's like we're alone, we're isolated. We mentioned 1 in 4 guys feels lonely every single day. 15 or 20% of guys have report to having 0 single friends. You need to go out there and find 100 best mates, right? You need a handful of men that you're doing life with, as iron sharpens iron, right? It's a great Proverbs there. So what's the importance of getting into an open space, open community, and how do you kind of navigate and find the one that, is going to serve and speak to you in the moment and season of life that you're in? Because once again, you go online and you can get overwhelmed with the groups, the coaches, everywhere you turn and look. And maybe this is, just a byproduct of me and the space that I'm in, but it's like, I had this thought this morning. It's like almost our space, I think, has been not ruined, but it's like everybody's a coach nowadays. I'm not sure if you've seen the same thing. And I have a lot of thoughts and reasons as to why that's happened. I think people are solving problems for others that they haven't yet figured out themselves, and they're trying to monetize that, which I think is a horrible thing. But how does a guy find the right group, and what's the importance of getting in a community like that? I know I said a lot there.
I totally agree with you, Frank. I've been talking about this a lot this week of, like the danger of commodifying empathy and helping people the new business. I see it a lot, and I think it's more and more important to be discerning and particular with the people we listen to and who we trust, and that trust is earned. Even if someone has a bunch of followers next to their name, that you still need to get to who they actually are and know that they're willing to open up with you also. So what I'll share is, so we at Groups for Men, it's just groupsformen.com, and you can go anytime, check us out. What we offer are daily Zoom groups online to support, to grow, to learn as guys, to have an honest conversation, to talk to other men who get what you're going through, to be in a safe place, and to also challenge you and keep you accountable on a week-to-week basis. Right? I liken this work to going to the gym. Like, if you want to transform your body, you're going to need at least 3 to 6 months of consistently going to the gym and changing your diet and exercising to actually see the results. So we're in for the 3 to 6, 9, 12-month game. A lot of the men in our community have been with us for over a year. And what you can expect is you drop in. Your first week is completely free. So you get your first 4 groups free and try it out. Try each subject, see what you think of our coaches. And you come in for a 2-hour group. You can just listen. You can keep your camera off if you want. And what you can expect is a coach to go around, check in with the guys, maybe share your name, how you're feeling, what's a high or low from your week, or what would you like to learn in group tonight. And then we go around to each man and do some coaching. We hear what's going on with guys. We go deeper. Different guys chime in. We're not giving each other advice. We're not saying you should do this. We're saying, like, hey, I've been through this. Here's what I did. Or asking different questions of, what's the story you're telling yourself about why your wife just got pissed at you, or why you're not having sex more? Like, what's the belief there? And helping guys wade into some of these waters. We've got a virtual platform, online community, where you can message us and peers anytime. Some different courses, mostly around nice guys who are stuck in their relationships, on the brink of divorce, risking breakups, how to define power and how to create purpose in your life and figure out what your mission in life is. And then we do one-on-one and private coaching for guys that have the means, have the energy, and want to, like, get deeper quicker and really turn their life around. A lot of our men are self-proclaimed nice guys. They're scared of conflict. They're often raised by women and have no good male role models. So they're looking to figure out what a strong, healthy man looks like and feels like. And their relationships are creating challenges for them. Like, they don't know how to communicate effectively and to how to give their partners what they want while not making themselves smaller and finishing last. and also offering some support around porn addiction and finances and other areas that are typically quite related to the challenges our modern men are feeling.
I love that. Um, how long, Tom, have you been involved in? I think you founded Groups for Men. So how long has the group organization been around?
Yeah, we've actually GFM has now been around about a year and a half, so we're pretty new still as of last May. And yeah, a couple of my co-founders, Troy and Mackenzie, started it, and I joined the team late last year. Um, Collectively, we've all been involved in men's work and life coaching for about 30, 40 years collectively. So we've all been running our own businesses in other organizations and all kind of saw this need to come together and try to create the high standard entry level point for any man who wants to start getting into personal development work and needs support community around it. Yeah, so there's 5 of us on the team, 4 groups a week, and yeah, for any man interested, you get your first week completely free. So there's no obligation. You hop in, try some groups out, see if Mackenzie, Troy, myself, or Colby are your flavor, and then the model we use is $49 a month. So for $49 a month, you get access to 16 groups with professional life coaches. It's kind of a ridiculous level of value, and part of the reason, to be blunt about it, is we're just working to build the community and get more men to take that jump and take that faith that, as simple as it may sound, tuning in to a Zoom room or an in-person group with a bunch of men that are willing to listen to you and offer genuine support might be the exact thing that you need to turn your life around. That it's not that complicated, and yet it takes consistency, and it does take days where it's not necessarily the sexy breakthrough, but it's just like, hey, I showed up for group again and I was honest and I got some accountability and I got my next step. And the transformations we see from men who have saved their marriages, who have tripled their bank accounts, who like no longer go to porn at all, like all these different crazy transformations from guys who were sort of finishing last in all areas of their life and were seemingly stuck in every way, who are now becoming the men that we've been talking about, Frank, who are leading their lives and are actually modeling for other men that you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to understand what you're bringing to the table, how to take ownership for it, and have enough tools and support and teammates around you so that you can handle the ups and downs of life that will inevitably come.
What has this taught you about yourself, right? I know you had some experience in men's work and coaching and various things across the globe prior to Men's for Group, but I'm sure the experience of being this entrenched, with as many men from different various backgrounds has maybe kind of shined a light on yourself. I know it's been the case for me, right? I thought when I started Rebuilt Recovery 5 years ago, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna help some guys. It was like, oh shit, this actually became a massive mirror, like for myself, and I've had to continue to do a lot of growth. And there are outlets that I need because I carry a lot of emotional weight. Like this work comes with a lot of stress put upon the person that's facilitating the conversation. So I've had to make sure that, and that's a lot of what I do here, right? These conversations become very therapeutic for me, but I also have outlets every day for my own self where it's like, because I recognize when I don't, like, I get really bent up and it can cause a lot of stress in my life. So there's things that I've had to learn about myself. So I'm curious, and this is just a personal question from me to you that is going to go on a podcast, but like, what has the work actually taught Tom about Tom?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, a lot. Simply put, that I don't have it all figured out, and when I think I do, I'm going to be sorely mistaken. Uh, I teach that which I need to learn is something I really love and live by, which is I run a group for our guys, which is a lot around handling conflict. I've done a lot of training and work in restorative justice and mediation and conflict. Most of my life, I've been terrified of conflict. I've been very much a people pleaser. I have a there's a beautiful part to this skill, and there's also that kind of shadow jaded side, which is um, almost everyone likes me. Like I'm very good at building people's trust, and a lot of people like Tom. And yet, at one point, I had to have a mentor kind of call me in and say, Tom, if everyone likes you, then what the hell do you stand for?
Mm.
It's not to say go be an asshole and piss people off. Like, still live by my values of courage, connection, kindness, honesty, respect. And yet, like not everyone's going to like our flavor of the sauce, and that's okay. And I think a big thing that it's taught me is to live in something that we call power instead of force, which is developing my respect and my opinion of myself just for me and not based on the actions and perceptions of others. And that might be the biggest one with all this, especially as sort of external success in business can be a ultimate test of this doesn't change my opinion of myself, and it shouldn't. Like, I could have all the people in the world saying good job, and if I don't believe them, then it's still going to fall short. And I think being willing to speak my truth, sing my song honestly, knowing that it's not going to resonate with anyone, and also be able to practice this at home is maybe the biggest lesson it teaches. Like when I'm out of alignment with myself and my personal practices, my health, when my girlfriend or partner is feeling like, hey, I see you giving all this to other people, but you're not actually bringing it home. I see this risk of being a hypocrite. I go into my guys and I'm giving them support on how to talk to their bosses about something, but I'm not willing to do that with my business partners. Like there's a big mirror effect in this as well. So it definitely plays for the leaders and teachers of the process of getting better and growing is we need to be in it too. And if I say I'm a coach, then you better believe I've got a coach of my own I've been working with every week. Because if I don't, then I'm a hypocrite or have like mentors and a tribe around me. Because I'll finish with something a friend just gifted me the other day, which is this beautiful expression of someone that teaches and isn't willing to learn is a fraud, and someone that learns and isn't willing to teach is a thief. So still being in the never-ending process of learning, using my two ears over my one mouth to be the observer, and being willing to share what I've got to share and not be afraid to take up space, because that doesn't mean you get less space because I do. It means we both get to elevate if we want to. So that's a little bit. It's a phenomenal question. I think it's the sort of messier and rougher part of this work that a lot of people don't talk about, and I'm glad you brought it in, Frank.
Actually, man, I resonate a lot with that, man. I've, have shared for me what starting this podcast has done over the last 6 years. It, birthed out of overcoming addictive struggles in my own life. And it really, because I had in 2018 this kind of massive awakening where I was building a fitness company at the time, and it was, rooted in physical transformation, but like through it was a lot of this personal growth development. It's like, I'm gonna help you build your best body so you can become your best self, is something I would say a lot of times. And it's like I had these secrets that I was living in my personal life where it's like I wasn't even my best self. There's no reason. There's now I can look back and be like, yeah, that's exactly why my message wasn't resonating with anybody, because there was a fraud component to it. Like I actually wasn't quote unquote authentic, right? It's like I was saying something that I wasn't living behind doors. You cannot pass on to another that which you do not hold yourself. If I'm sharing a message of truth and integrity, I better damn sure be walking out in my own life. And I can tell you, since starting this movement, the Rebuild Man organization, like it has forced me to continue to look at how I show up in every single area of my life. I'm not big enough now where I get recognized like anywhere that I go, but like I don't know, maybe somebody's going to see me out in public that listens to the show or has. Like, we've worked with a lot of people that have been local. It's like if I'm showing up differently out in public, if I'm blasted at a bar or whatever, things I used to do in the past, is like how out of alignment with the message I'm sharing in our organization. So I love that you shared that because it resonated a lot with me. You mentioned a lot of the conversations that are being had around this nice guy syndrome, very consistent with what we're seeing. A lot of issues within communication, divorce, challenges within relationships. What's the one maybe reoccurring or consistent conversation you guys are having right now that's maybe been the most shocking or surprising to you?
Mm, huh. I just came off of a conversation about this. We'll see how much it connects directly. And I think this pattern of a lot of men and boys who aren't dating at all these days, who have just sort of sworn off
It's a
this.
black pill, right? Isn't that what that's
There's
called?
black pill, there's MGTOW, which is men going their own
Going their
way.
own way.
There's incel, which is involuntary celibate, which is sort of the to be blunt. Like I think the victim of like I've been put into a space where I can't get laid or can't find a partner, um, that scares me a bit. And it's also something I want to speak to those men and call them in on. Of I don't think there's a lot of responsibility being taken from that perspective of what are the causes and conditions that are creating your reality, right? I go off a belief that things are happening for me, not to me, which is really, I don't know if this is cool on your show, but this is fucking uncomfortable to feel when shit is getting thrown my way that feels really unfair. Is feel those emotions and then getting to a point where, okay, what is the invitation here? Like, what is the opportunity to learn from my friend killing himself? Like, at a certain point, it had to be, okay, what do I want to do with this energy and these emotions and this dissatisfaction? So that is a particular narrative that's coming out where I think a lot of men are afraid, are angry, are sad at the state of things, which is so understandable. That that doesn't mean you need to isolate yourself from the very thing that I think you are seeking, which is deeper intimacy and connection. Doesn't even have to be sex overnight. Like even just allowing yourself to open up and be messy with another human is such a normal thing, and it feels really good. And yes, it's scary and sometimes it's not going to be clean, and a life without that courage to go out and connect with people and open up is a life that's really falling short. So that's an area that I think connects to the nice guy piece a bit, of this fear and this pattern of sort of finishing last, and a lot of guys who are like, we're getting left behind in all of this, going to, okay, let's just go our own way, or let's just isolate it, or let's lone wolf it. And the very thing that they are fearing, which is to open up about how hard that experience is I think the very thing that's going to liberate them and give them what they want.
It's unfortunate because they find an identity and almost a community in this isolation. The fact that there's, two labels, MGTOW and incel, that they can claim that they're going their own way. It's like, no, you're actually finding a tribe over there. And hey, we said we're going to call guys out, right? And that's exactly what we're doing right now. If 10 people in the last couple of months have called you an asshole, chances are you might be an asshole, right? If every person you meet is telling you like you're kind of lazy and you're not put together, it might be a sign that you're a little bit lazy and not put together. If everybody outside of you is saying the same thing, like you don't have to be mad at them, right? But hey, there may be some truth in some of these things that are kind of being presented. And you can go your own way. You and I both know it's not going to lead you to anywhere. Or you could say, hey, you know what? Like, let me take a little bit of responsibility. Let me find groups for men. Let me get around other men that are going to challenge me. Let me put in a little bit of work. Because here's the truth, man, as well, is like, it doesn't take a whole lot to stand out. It doesn't take a whole lot of work to become a, I don't like to say a top tier or like a high status, but unfortunately, we talked about a lot of the stats, right? The majority are down here. You do a little bit of work, you become up here. Now it's like you have, the world becomes your oyster. Relationships open up, doors open up, opportunities. You manifest these things. You begin to create opportunities that can continue to push you up. But it starts with taking that first step. So wrap it up here, Tom. I really appreciated and enjoyed and valued this conversation. For the guy that is hearing this and maybe still on the fence, let's speak to him for just a minute. Like I don't want to call it encouragement or motivation because he doesn't need that, but a call to action here to the guy that is like still on the fence to begin to take the change, to find the groups for men, to get plugged into an organization. We'll have everything linked down there in the show notes. But let's take a moment, speak to him, and we'll wrap it up with our last and final question.
Yes. So to you, man out there, I can guarantee on some level I understand what you're feeling right now. I feel the frustration and the confusion on what to do about life circumstances. And I want to remind you that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And that the status quo that we're living in, we know and we've talked about that there's more for us. And if we want to get there, we need to take some courageous acts. And there's a very simple one you can take, which is to join us. Go to groupsformen.com, sign up for free for a week. Come join us. If you don't like it, you leave and find somewhere else. But come step into a community of men and see what it feels like to open up about what's going on and how much better you feel, how much lighter you feel leaving these groups. You'll be surprised what can happen in just a week or two of starting to join a community of men who actually get what you're going through and have some of the tools that you may need to change your life. Yeah, just me personally, a reminder that every 14 minutes, a man in the United States takes his own life. It's over 39,000 a year. The stakes are incredibly high, and the way in which to turn our life in a different direction and the men around us is to start by just talking about what's going on and have conversations like this. So come join a group for absolutely free for a week at groupsformen.com. Would absolutely love to see you there and play a little bit on Zoom.
Guys, groupsformen.com. We'll have the plug down there in the show notes. We'll have all of Tom's links and access to get more connected and plugged in with some of the amazing things he's put out there as well. Last and final question here today. Title of our show is called The Superhuman Life. It's been a journey of discovery and learning and defining that in my own life, but I love to always get a guest take. So as we wrap it up today, as we do with every single episode, Tom, how would you define living a superhuman life?
It's funny. My mind went two directions. One is like a superhuman, like a superhero, like powerful, but actually where I'm at now is more of like a superhuman life, which is a really honest life. It's a messy life. It's the process of being a human in this strange predicament of we are a tiny speck on this giant rock spinning through space, and we are infinitesimally small, and yet at the same time we are powerful beyond measure, and we are these ever powerful beings. So just the superhuman and strange life we are in is kind of what stands out to me, and how strange and how lovely it can feel to be a human on this earth. So yeah, that's what I take away from your beautiful show title.
I love it, man. It's the greatest gift, the biggest lottery ticket that anybody could win is the fact you're alive here today. And, you were chosen and selected to be here out of all the endless possibilities. You were chosen as a human being. So explore it, lean into the uniqueness and purpose that has been placed upon you, and focus on sharing all of that with the world. And I think that's for me what it means. So Tom, brother, I've really enjoyed it, man. Big fan of what you guys are doing over there. Obviously aligns a lot with our work and organization. So guys, check it out. groupsformen.com. Get your free week access. We'll link it on there for the show notes. But we hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you want to support the show, those ratings, those reviews, continue to send those in. They do an incredible job at pushing this out into the algorithm, getting us more exposure so we can bring on incredible guys like Tom every single week. But most importantly, if there's a guy in your life that is struggling with anything that we discussed here today, maybe this loneliness, maybe isolation, he needs to hear this conversation. So do us the favor and him the blessing by sharing this episode with him. But for Tom Karrel, your host, Coach Frank Rich, we love you guys. We'll see you in the next one.